Level Up is a regular podcast that brings you topics to help you perform at work and in life at your very highest level. Your host is Dan Chiodo, an executive coach, corporate trainer, and author. He is president of Impact Training and Executive Coaching. And now, here's Dan.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. We are here on Level Up. We are your link to lifelong learning. So let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about teamwork. There's this phrase that says teamwork makes the dream work. So you think about that a little bit and think about, well, what is your dream? That's what I want you to think about today. What's your dream? And then who's the team that will get you there? That's why today we're going to talk to a young professional that's making great things happen in his field. Once he got started in that field, he couldn't get stopped. He was actually born in Fort Myers Beach in Florida, and also has a business marketing degree. That was his major, and a minor in entrepreneurship. So presently, he is an area sales manager for D.R. Horton. Now, that's the largest home builder in the United States, and he is based in Charleston, South Carolina. He has extensive expertise in exceeding the expectations of home building projects and building effective teams that, get this, not only work at high levels, but enjoy working together. He's a great communicator and believes in cultivating relationships with all the stakeholders involved. With his last employer, he ranked number 2 out of 900 as a sales consultant in the country. And he's achieved membership in the 2020 President's Club. So it's time to meet this peak performer, Stanley Stouder II. So welcome to this episode of Level Up, Stanley.
Thank you so much. Very warm welcome there. It's an honor to be on the show. Thank you.
Oh, this is great. I want to ask you all sorts of questions. We're going to talk about teamwork, but first I want to talk a little bit about you. So I have to ask you, what was your very first job?
Yeah, great question. So I would tell you my very first job was actually working for my father. So my dad owns a commercial real estate company in Southwest Florida, has had good success with that. And while most of my friends were at the beach for spring break or vacationing with their families, I had the privilege of painting warehouse docks in sunny Southwest Florida. So you can imagine how warm that was. So painting warehouse docks, pulling weeds, cleaning up facilities, that was kind of where I started cutting my teeth in the real estate market and just getting an understanding that it's not all the glitz and glam of HGTV. It's a lot of hard work behind the scenes.
I'll bet it is. You know, sometimes I will ask guests what they learn from their first job. So since you worked for your dad, what is it that maybe you learned from him?
Well, my dad's a brilliant man. He's an incredible real estate mind and just an incredible fiscally responsible type kind of guy. So I learned so much from him. But I think one of the best things I learned was that was the first time I ever hired anybody. And it was incredibly uncomfortable. I was in high school. I had a couple buddies that were looking to try to make some money. And I remember my dad saying, "Hey, listen, you need to hire somebody to help you with this job. It's too big for one person." And I thought, who would I even hire? And that's when he started saying, you need to, go out, make connections and grow your team and start building people and teaching them the job and start delegating. And that's kind of the very beginnings, if you will, of me learning management, learning communication, and kind of building a team with the training wheels on. So that I would say learning the team dynamic and hiring people and embracing the uncomfortable.
That is great. That is great. Any other interesting jobs that you had along the way?
I was a valet for a while. That was fun. Worked at Publix at the customer service desk, learned some good lessons there. So yeah, I worked a bunch of little odd jobs here and there throughout college and high school, and always, found a way to make some money. That was always just a natural knack of mine, I guess, if you will. But it was exciting.
I like that. Some people are only in one or two fields in their life, but I always like to explore that because it seems to me a person who's done different things, you pick up new things that you want to learn. Was there ever a question about you going to college? Did you always want to do that? Or did that happen a little later in life?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I wasn't your quintessential student. I went to a nice, private school growing up, was surrounded by a lot of people that have grown up to be doctors and PAs and just incredible attorneys and all sorts of things like that. But I wasn't a bad student. It just wasn't something that I naturally enjoyed. I was more of the athlete, more of the, enjoying the experience kind of a person. But in the family I grew up in, it was never a question of if college. It was you're 100% going to college. So, go. And then when you pick out your major, make sure it's within, in alignment with your future goals. And, once again, I kind of go back to that foundation, the framework of, it was a little bit more serious growing up, making sure that, hey, listen, don't just pick a major because you think it's fun. Pick a major because, it can benefit you in your life and your future. And so college was always in the works for me. It just was one of those things that I just had to accept and move forward with.
Well, the more we talk to you, we're going to learn that you are in the right field. But did you ever consider any other fields that you investigated at all?
Yeah, political science was always a dream of mine. I've always enjoyed politics since I was a young kid, and I still think it might be in my future one day. But for right now, business made sense to me, and it was probably the best for what I was working towards.
Have you always been a team player?
I would like to say so. Yeah, I started off in sports as a young kid. I was playing sports. I think I started soccer at 4 years old and was always much more inclined to team sports rather than, say, tennis or golf. Those never really attracted me as much as like a basketball or a football or things where I could be a part of a large group of people.
So today, in the field you're in, you have a lot on the plate, it sounds like. What's your go-to thing for a hobby or relaxation? As I talk to young professionals, I always like to make sure that they're not just working, but they have some fun too. What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So because of the athletic background, going to the gym has always been something I've enjoyed and found to be peaceful for me. I find that if I get my mind right or my body right in the mornings, and my mind will tend to follow, and I can, kind of decompress in those ways. So I always enjoy being out on the boat, anything really physically active. I thoroughly enjoy. I'm kind of a big reader. I love to read. I find that has been very relaxing for me and just helps me get my thoughts out of the box that they're typically in and go big picture often. So that helps free my mind a little bit. So I would say physical activities, reading, things along those lines for sure.
There are a lot of studies that say when you relax, when you're away from work, that's when you come up with your best ideas. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think what happens is you allow yourself to get out of, like I said, the box that you're typically in, the day-to-day, the paperwork, the phone calls, the emails. When you read, you get to explore maybe somebody else's mind a little bit and see how they're viewing the problem or the issue that's at hand. So that is something I would totally agree with. Yeah.
That is good. You also mentioned morning and your morning routine. And more, I read about how important that is to establish some way of starting the day. So it sounds like maybe you do some fitness things in the morning, or what does the morning look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think morning routines are critical. Everybody's a little different. I know some people need more sleep than others, so I'm not advocating that you have to wake up early to be successful. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe that it can help with your time. So I would say my morning routine typically looks like I get up at around 5 to 5:30, get out, start reading immediately. So I like to do some spiritual type exercises, like to read, get into the word for me. And then I go right to the gym. I work out fasted for about 45 minutes, come home, shower, and then I'm right into the emails and right into kind of my day and kind of mapping out the roadmap for what I need to accomplish that day, who I need to speak to. And one of the things that my family always says is, what do I need to do first to make me the most amount of money? So that's kind of how I typically roadmap my days.
Yeah, that is good. And I think too, to do your things that are part of your day, the spiritual part, the fitness part. A lot of people don't get to that because there's just not time. But do you think maybe putting it at the beginning of the day is a good thing to do so that you do make sure you get that done?
Yeah, without question. Like I said, I try to not get too rigid on people. For example, for me, I have found that these things have worked really, really well for me, because you come home after work, you had a bad conversation on the way home. The last thing you want to do is go to the gym, or the last thing you want to do is be emotionally invested in your marriage or in a relationship that really matters. And so for me, I found that if I can knock out not necessarily the things that are absolutely critical, but the things that I know will make me better overall up front, I will have vastly more productivity in my day. My mindset will be better. And when I come home, I know that home is the finish line. And I know, okay, I did it. Today is done. I'm home. Now it's time for rest and, just kind of decompressing and being able to be focused on my marriage and the things that really matter.
Wow, that's very special. And, I know that your customer service is excellent, and I'm told second to none by most people. And so I want to explore that a little bit. If you hired a new team member, which you'll be doing from time to time, I guess, what would your message be to them about customer service?
I'll tell you this, I got to give some praise to someone who really set me on the right path in customer service. His name is Esteban Valdez, and he was a customer care manager at Pulte Homes when I first started. My first month on the job, I was not getting really great results. I was struggling. I was kind with people. People liked me, but I didn't seem to get these survey scores in. I just seemed to struggle with that. So I sat down with Esteban one day, and I remember he looked me right in the eye and he goes, "You need to have a servant's heart. That's step number one, a servant's heart." And I said, "Okay, well, what do you mean by a servant's heart? That's a big overall concept. Break that down a little bit for me." And he goes, "If you walk into somebody's home and there's a piece of trash on the floor, pick it up. If there's dirt on a baseboard, don't be afraid to get on your hands and knees and clean it." And what it did for me was it started to set a tone that I was never above the work, in that my client or my homeowner at the time was the priority. So if I walked into somebody's home and they were upset, instead of me viewing it as a back and forth, I viewed it as, we're not in the same boat right now. And how do I get myself in their canoe? And how do we learn to row together to get to the accomplished or to the finish line for both people? And once I had that mindset of servant first, everything else in customer service tends to fall in line with that.
That is excellent. So,
thank you.
I am Dan Chiodo, host of Level Up, and today we're talking to Stanley Stouder II, and we're talking about teamwork. We're not quite there yet, but on the flip side, we're going to do a deep dive into that subject of teamwork. First, we have a message from our sponsor, and yes, you are listening and watching Level Up.
Here is F45 training. The F stands for functional training, a mix of circuit and HIIT style workouts geared towards everyday movement. 45 is the total amount of time for sweat dripping and heart pumping fun. With thousands of exercises in our database and an almost infinite amount of combinations, our sessions are always fresh and innovative. Put that all together, and F45 Training is here to bring you one of the world's most innovative workouts. Now let's take a class. Find your local F45 studio from our locations all around the globe. Once inside, our trainers will be there to greet you and check you in. First, we'll demo each exercise while you watch from the blue track. A warm-up will follow, then it's time to find your station. Want to play-by-play? Track your heart rate with F45 Lionheart. Ready in 3, 2, 1, it's go time. F45 TV will guide you. F45 FM will move you. And our trainers will support you every step of the way. This is team training. This is life-changing. This is F45.
Welcome back. I knew that you would come back because today we're talking about teamwork. And my guest is Stanley Stouder II. I am Dan Chiodo, and this is Level Up. You know, sometimes before we even start what I say we're going to talk about, when I have a few moments while you're watching the commercial, I learned some interesting information, and that's what happened today. Stanley, I wonder if you would talk about the generation before your dad. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. So my grandfather had about a 7th grade education, grew up during the Great Depression, milking cows, just farmhand, real hard work type stuff. Ended up growing moved to the Midwest, worked a bunch of odd jobs, trucking, things like that, and then ended up opening up a restaurant called Penguin Point. And he would had them sporadic, put all over throughout the Midwest, and had a ton of success, built a bit of a mini restaurant empire, if you will. And really where I was getting at during the break was what he did was he created an expectation, and it created a generational expectation that was passed down to my father, my uncles, all of my cousins, me as well. My wife always jokes that when we travel, she meets other stouter men and they're basically all the same. And, and basically what that was when we're born, a lot of times our parents, each one of us have different gifts and different talents. I remember my dad saying, listen, I'm never going to ask you to do more than what you're capable of doing, but I am going to ask you to do what you are capable of doing. And I think that principle of me not having to be something I'm not, right? I'm not very handy per se, ask my wife, but I'm pretty good at sales. So instead of me having an insecurity of me not being able to hang a shelf real well, I lean on what I am good at, and I allow that to shine through me as a form of confidence. And I believe that nowadays we don't talk about enough generational expectations and generational, placement on the next generation, millennials and things like that, and how we can demand the best out of them without making them feel insecure about things that maybe they're not great at.
Excellent. So talk a little bit about teams. I know you're very proud of some of the teams you've developed. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I think teams there's so many books on it, so many podcasts, there's a lot of thoughts on teams. But one of the things that I found to be successful is at the heart of the team, if you're building a team, you have to start with yourself and ask yourself, okay, what am I naturally talented at? What are my skill sets in from a practicality standpoint? And then where are my gaps? What am I struggling at? So for me, just to be transparent, not the best from an organizational standpoint. I'm pretty good at it, but it's not something that I thrive in. So for me, I don't need to hire another me. I need to hire a person that can complement that weakness. And you see this in books, you hear it in thoughts, but the truth is it's difficult to do as a leader because it requires you to be honest with yourself and to be real with yourself and say, hey, I might not be great at this. And that's a hard thing for a lot of leaders to do. So if you want to build a good team, first step, be honest with yourself about what you are good at and what you need to hire for. And I think once you start there, that's a good foundational piece, and it will help guide your hiring process quite a bit.
That is good. So I will have people who can do different things, many of them things that maybe I'm not the best at. And then I'll have different personalities on that team, correct?
That's right. So kind of like we were talking about with reading books, if I'm faced with an issue, I need to have multiple eyes that look at it from different perspectives. And a lot of times having different personalities help with that, different backgrounds help with that, different degrees help with that. That's why I don't believe you necessarily have to hire somebody because they have a bachelor's in business. If somebody has a bachelor's in art, but they can look and solve a problem, I'm all day going to hire that person. I don't care if you know what a pro forma is. I care that you can actually solve the issue at hand. And that's really where I think the old school is kind of meeting the new school here a little bit in the hiring process. Corporate 500, I think, starting to see this a little bit more. It's much more about who can actually get the problem solved and get the issues resolved than it is necessarily about the plaque that's hanging behind them at their desk.
So would you say that you are more solution focused than problem focused?
Without question. And I would say that's in every facet of my life, in my marriage, in my to-do lists, in whatever it might be. I always say problem in, solution out. Never have a problem come in and send a problem back. One of the things I see a lot of times, and I was guilty of this when I was first starting off my career, was I would receive an issue. If I couldn't figure it out myself, I would then bring that issue to my higher up. What I found to be a much better plan is receive an issue, see if you can figure it out. If you're unable to do that, check your pride, go find somebody else who might be able to do that, lean on them for understanding, see if you can grow, and then bring the issue to your boss with numerous possibilities on how to solve that particular issue. And I find that is a much better approach, but I love that the saying problem in, solution out.
I love that too. That's the way to do it. And it's so much better for anyone that you're working with, even if you report to them, that you can bring some solutions instead of just saying, we have a problem, which isn't the case. We don't have a problem. You have a problem. That's what we do.
Correct.
So how do you talk about getting teams to work together, team members to work together? How do you do that?
I think it comes down to you kind of have to be able to go to a 30,000 foot perspective with your team. I think you need to see personalities. You need to know your people. And I think when you start to know your people, you start to recognize, hey, they might need a break. They might need a vacation. You know, one of the things that I love to talk about is not viewing each team member by a strict, rigid set of rules and skill sets that they have to check the box on. So what I mean by that is maybe I have a husband who needs to be home to watch his kid's soccer practice, but it starts at 4:00. The office closes at 5. Is there a way that I can facilitate him being able to get to that soccer practice? If you really think about the problem, 90% of the time, you can find a solution to that. And what will happen is it's showing that you're not just investing in them professionally, which is what corporate America is all about, right? We're going to fly you to corporate training. We're going to send you home. All they're communicating there is that we're only caring about you as a professional. What I want my team to know is not only am I caring about you as a professional, because that's how you make your livelihood, but I also care about you as an individual. What's going on at home? How can I help remove issues and problems from your life that make you more effective when you're on the job site? And I think when you start viewing your team as individuals, what can help you is you can really start to eliminate problems and issues in their life, and their effectiveness will just go through the roof. Also, your retention rate will go through the roof.
Yes, probably. If you are hiring for your organization, you would hire people with the necessary skills. So they would have to have sales skills, for instance. What values would they have to have before they even got the job? Are there a few values that you look for that they must have?
Well, I think so. You had mentioned sales skills. One of the things that I think is a little bit of a faux pas now is that that there's a certain personality type that's salesy, right? The type A, the high energy. it's interesting. And those people typically do have a better track record in the long run. But the truth is, I've been in sales offices with people that are very introverted, very, insecure even, but they come out of their shell when they're speaking about something they're passionate about. So one of the first things I look for is passion. Is this person passionate about anything? Is it the gym for them? Is it, coffee, even something small? I just want to know that they have a passion and they're excited about something. So that's step one. Step two, is this person someone I would like to get a beer with? I don't always have to agree with you. We don't have to be best friends, but I got to be able to stand you. I got to be able to like you at least a little bit for us to work together. And then finally, the third thing I always look for is the person relatively competent? Are they able to articulate sentences? This is like a real basic one, but, are they able to do the things that I need them to do, such as spreadsheets, and can they make a phone call and those types of things? So actual practical skill sets as well.
It's interesting. You say they wouldn't necessarily have to be from sales. And I've found too that some of the best people, sometimes they're educators or former educators, are people who would say, I could never do sales. I would never be good in sales. And I look at them and say, you are perfect. They know how to communicate. They
Correct.
know they have a passion for what they do. It comes across. So that's really what you're saying too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was joking. I was at an Xfinity store with my wife about 2 days ago, and we had just such a wonderful person checking us out. And I told her, I said, hey, listen, if you're open for a job, I will hire you right now. Because just her presence, her energy, the way she was approaching a client, the way she was solving problems for me. I don't care if you're moving boxes or if you're serving coffee. What I care about is you as an individual and what you bring to the table and what you bring to the team as a dynamic. I think that it's something that if more hiring managers really looked at the individual, their longevity and their retention rate and their overall team dynamic would be so much better than if you just look for the degree.
You're right about that. And I think too, if we can see them as a person, if we can see them in action, especially if they're doing something else and you're watching that, they're not interviewing for anything, but you saw them doing what they do. My wife, many times when we go to the supermarket, sometimes it would be time to check out. And I would notice that she would get quiet for a moment and she'd be listening to the people behind us. And what she was listening for were the people who were saying the things and doing the things that it looked like they would be excellent employees. And I knew never to say anything because she would then turn around, give them her card and say, we're always looking for someone at the health system. So if you know of anyone, or if you're ever looking for something, and they're out there. These people are out there. And if we can just find the right ones for our team. So do you have any pointers about how to communicate effectively?
Yeah, that's a big topic there. Effective communication. I think that there's numerous different types of communication, whether it's confrontation, whether it's problem solving, things like that. But I would say just some of the big stuff, when you're effectively communicating, it's when you're listening. I need to be intaking the information that you're sending to me. And I kind of need to be able to sift through not the fluff, but I need to really get to the heart of the issue. And I think that's kind of a lost art a lot of times with people is they focus so much on the fruits that they miss the root. I need to find the root issue here. And the same thing ties right into customer service. If I come to your home and you're upset that your cabinet door is loose and you're really irate about it, is a cabinet door ruining your life? Of course not. Is it affecting the ability to live in the home? No. But what you're telling me is the cabinet door is the problem. Well, the cabinet door is your fruit. The real root of the issue is I spent a lot of money on this home. I was told it was going to be an incredible quality, and now my cabinet door is not working. And so I feel lied to, I feel misled, and I'm upset about those missed expectations. And once I realized that this person's really not upset about the cabinet door, they're upset about the lack of quality here and being misled. Now I know how to effectively communicate to you as a person and get to the root of the issue, not just the fruit.
That's really good. And also, you are thinking about what that person may have gone through, where that person is coming from. And not everyone does that. I think that's essential because that helps you de-stress a little bit about whatever you're going to address or face. If you just think, well, I may not know what's happened to them today or what other things could have occurred.
That's right, especially with COVID and all the different market trends and all the pressures of the election and things like that. I had a lot of clients calling me upset. I had a lot of clients calling me in fear and in worry. And what I've always recognized is that if I go fire with them, we're just both going to get burned. But if I go to that situation with a heart of empathy and a heart of understanding, and I sit there and I just let them go and let them speak, kind of like in fishing. Sometimes if you reel in the line too early, it's going to snap. Sometimes you got to let the line out, which gives the illusion that the fish is getting away. But we both know they're still on the hook and they just need to wear themselves out a little bit, and you can reel them right back in. And then they're much more calm and it's a much easier conversation to have at that time. But during their spew, you've got to be willing to be actively engaged in listening in the process, which just communicates value to that person.
Yes. Since we've talked about teamwork today, I also want to ask about feedback, how you give feedback to a team member if in a situation they're not doing the right thing. How should we give feedback to a team member?
Yeah, feedback's tough. Feedback's tough because some people are fine with feedback. Some people hate feedback and say they like it. They only like certain types of feedback. And also, if you've ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages, some people are words people. So your feedback can come across very painful or also very encouraging, depending on how you structure it. So one of the ways I always give feedback is I first kind of the sandwich routine, right? Hey, I first start off with something. Hey, I love your work ethic. I always find something that person does really well. Maybe they show up early. Maybe their office is always clean. Maybe they just look good, or their shirts are ironed. I don't know. You can come up with a million things. Start with something positive that they do. Talk about something in their personal life. Hey, how's your wife? Your kid's still in soccer, things like that. And then what I do is I seamlessly enter into, these are some of the things that I'm seeing on my end that I believe could make you more effective. Are you open and willing to having a conversation about some things that I think we can implement that makes you better at what you do? 99% of the time, I have a very positive response from people in that regard. And they tend to be, everybody wants to get better. And so when you structure it as, hey, these are some things that I believe we can do to make you more effective, I find that people are a lot more willing to listen. And then I always end the conversation with, tell me exactly how you feel right now. I don't want the filtered. I don't want I'm the boss and I got to say the politically right thing. I need to know exactly how you feel right now. What's your raw emotion? Are you upset? Are you angry? And let us walk through that. Once again, trying to get to the root of the issue with that person. And I find that those simple steps can help, be much more effective in your communication on feedback with somebody.
Well said. Well said. And I like the fact that you really didn't say that the person's bad or that they did something bad, but here's how you could do something better.
Correct.
Stanley, thank you so much for all of this. I'd like to do a recap, but there's so much, and appreciate you being here with us today talking about many great subjects, but especially teamwork.
I appreciate it. It's been a true honor. And let me just say this real quick. You embody what you preach. You are that way 24/7. When the camera's not on, when the mic's not on, you are this way. I've worked for you. I've had the honor of servicing your home. You and your wife are tremendous people, and it is truly an honor to be on this show. And thank you for just being authentically who you really are. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you. And I appreciate you too. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on Level Up. This is our episode on teamwork with Stanley Stouder II. And you will have show notes, lots of show notes for this one. And you can read those. Take one thing at a time. And on this one, I really mean it. One thing at a time, highlight it, and go out and practice it. See what it can do for your life. Then come back and get another one. And move through these show notes, because you have a lot of gems there of things that can make you even better than you are now, help you level up. So we are excited about you being at the next episode of Level Up. We'll save you a front row seat. And I think now, Dustin, it's time to take us out. Cheers.
If you feel like this information was valuable to you, Dan would love it if you'd click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's episode, please leave a comment. Also, if you're a first-time subscriber, be sure to ring that bell to be notified about future episodes. To learn more about what Impact's training and development can do for you and your business, visit impactbydan.com, where you can find more information about executive coaching, corporate training, keynote speaking, and much more. Thanks so much for watching.